Welcome into episode 10 of Coffee and Chel, the video series where I go through the prior videos, questions, and comments, and help you with your hot lineup decisions. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the fantasy events because that is the majority of questions I get pretty much everywhere now. We're going to talk a little bit about Team of the Week, coins, and what I'm doing for coins, and lastly, the salary cap before we get into your questions and comments from the prior video. So let's first talk about the fantasy event. The fantasy event is my favorite event. The stranglehold that it has on the community now, because it has been such a good event over the last 5 years, is something that I don't particularly enjoy, because what ends up happening is everyone just stops playing the game. They try and make 10 different fantasy cards, and then what ends up happening is that you end up with players that you're not really a fan of, or you don't really care about, or even aren't particularly all that great, but because they get high overalls, you have to throw them in your lineup, and then you feel that like there's nowhere you can put them. Right? I'm talking about for people that care about having highest overall cards and things like that on your team. This year, a couple big changes to fantasy that I think are going to be extremely impactful that not a lot of people are considering when it comes to the hardcore player base who are trying to get like 5 fantasy cards. Okay, number one, the salary cap. There's no way around it. If the overall system, if these trends continue and someone pops off, let's say they start out in 80 overall, okay, and they score 5 goals in the first 2 weeks. It's happened a ton. Happened last year with Casey Middlestad, Connor Garland, Pareko, and Ekholm had a couple goals early on. There's always some standouts very early on, and they end up separating themselves from the pack usually. And then what happens, though, with the salary cap is if it goes up plus 1 million for every overall it goes up, if they get to 90 overall and it's, I don't know, October, and the salary cap will not increase until the second season, which is like 5 months away, you're in a spot where it's going to eat up like 10% of your cap, which I think I've changed my mind. We're going to talk about the salary cap in a little bit, but that is something to consider. If you have like 5 fantasy cards and they all pop off, the odds of you being able to use them are going to be very slim unless you absolutely sewer the rest of your team. And based on endurance, that is not really going to be viable. So definitely an interesting caveat. What I'm doing for the fantasy event is I know that EA will give us enough to. Last year, they just straight up gave us a free fantasy card, which was crazy, and which made it one of the best fantasy releases of all time. Actually, it was the best. And I think that they will give you another one this year, or at least stuff to get pretty close, right? So that being said, I'm not really worried about not being able to get one. You will be able to get one, and I will have videos during the event that will show you how to get one. The next thing, when is it going to be released? Well, I would assume with the early release of NHL 26, the first thing that I thought about when it came to HUT content was that the fantasy event can finally happen before the start of the season. One of the downfalls of the fantasy event is that it happens during the launch because the game released basically when the season started. So what would happen is you would get a few cards during the event that scored, and you could just wait and see who the best option was. Now you got to know puck, because if it happens on Friday, you'll have basically 3 nights of games in the second week before you have to make your decision, right? So someone could score in those 3 nights for sure, but there's very little knowledge of you going into it. You're essentially going to have to pick and choose who you think is going to score enough to get to 99 overall, which I love. I think that's a fantastic thing, but I think it's also going to piss a lot of the community off because you don't get that early, like, oh, this card's going to hit 99 because he only needs X amount of goals the rest of the way. So that's something to consider as well when you think about having multiple options. The other thing, 13 out of 40, roughly, every year hit 99. So I just want you to be aware of that. Usually when they release about 40 cards total from the fantasy event, I'm not talking about playoffs and World Juniors and all that. I'm talking about the fantasy event that comes out early in the year. Usually 11 to 13 cards over the last 5 years since the fantasy event happened hit 99. It is a very low amount, but well, it's like 30%. So again, understand that not all of them are going to hit 99, and some of them are going to be really disappointing, like John Carlson last year, who I got in a BND pack. So with all that being said, the fantasy event is awesome, but I don't want you guys to have like a stranglehold on it. It controls everything that you do, because the one thing about the fantasy event that kind of stinks is that they have to stat them low enough so they don't hit 99 in November, which means that they're not usable. Now, the overalls being very low this year do help with that. And whoever is the Chicago, I would assume, like, EA is not paying attention if they make a Blackhawk not like a forward, right? Or an Anaheim Duck a forward, right? Because if you give an Anaheim Duck or a Chicago Blackhawk a forward fantasy card, they're getting +2 overall. which makes a massive difference when you consider that fantasy cards might come out at 75 overall. They only need a couple goals before they can actually go in your lineup, right? So it's usually the fastest ones as well that are the most viable because they can get in your lineup. Once a fantasy card is good enough to get in your lineup, that's when it's great because you've got a card in your lineup. He could score and keep going up higher, but he has to get into your lineup, which is usually a big issue. Sometimes it's pretty tough. Like Kyle Palmieri, for example, he was okay last year, but then he went on a little bit of a run and he was able to get in my line or in a stacked lineup, right? For example. So again, just something to keep in mind when it comes to fantasy events. So for what I'm doing, okay, I'm going to release a video today that'll go over what I'm doing with all my sets and cards, okay? I am turning all of my 78 overall untradeable cards, 78 overall untradeable cards, into the event 80 overall set. So if you go to check my game, you can trade in 378 overalls for an 80 overall check my game player item. The reason why I'm doing that is because I think there's no way around it that 80 overalls should be used in the sets for a fantasy. I think. I need to make this very clear. We have no idea. They have done crazy things in the past so far, the last year and a half, that makes, it predicting how stuff is going to work impossible. But that's what I'm doing personally, is I'm just trading my untradeable 78s in for 80 overalls. And so far I've gotten, by just doing the offline content, and obviously I get to play a ton because, well, I've been live for 12 days. But by doing the online content, I've got about 1580 overalls that are untradeable from the Check My Game event. Okay. 79s, I'm just keeping. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with them because if it looks like last year, it was like 78 plus cards, 5 of them were required for 1 fantasy collectible. And then it was 380 overalls, and you would have gotten 3 fantasy collectibles. So it's a 1 for 80 overalls, right? You needed 40. If you go back and watch my video from last year, you want to see the inflation as well of coins. What happens when they give you a ton of coins to earn via milestones. I went and watched my video. An 80 overall card was going for 18,000 coins last year. To put that in perspective, an 80 overall right now is like 2,200. So for everyone that is upset about not a lot of rewards or having a hard time earning coins, there is a slight benefit to that. It's all a scale. If there's no coins to be had and there's no rewards to be had, everything's cheaper. 18,000 coins last year for an 80 overall. It is 2,200 for an 80 overall right now. What's even crazier is a 78 overall. You needed 5 of them to make 1 fantasy collectible. You needed 40 collectibles. A 78 overall this time last year was 8,000 coins. That is insane when you consider that a 78 overall right now is about 15 to 1,600, right? So I don't know what I'm doing with my 79s. I might trade them in, but for 78s, I'm just taking the event item. And the reason why I'm doing that is there is an exchange set where you can trade in a 78 overall, 4 of them, and you can get an 80 or an 81. You shoot your shot. I always play with the least amount of risk involved. So if you get an 81, cool. I don't know if there'll be a specific 81 overall set. So you're basically just burning an extra 78 overall to get a chance at an 81 when you could just take the guaranteed 80 and be okay with it. So that's what I'm doing. Everything else, I'm just selling. I want to be this game. If you can get a lot of coins, it is the biggest advantage to you because no one that plays the game super casually has a route to make a ton of coins. They don't have milestones that you can deke behind your net and get 125,000 coins right off the rip. They don't have that, right? So you got to play the game to get coins. Cup chase is the best way to do it. And I think that just having a lot of coins, like I would guess that a fantasy card right now, like they're going to come out of the gate at like $1 million to buy. No one's going to buy them. I would say that the good ones, like the ones that everyone wants, probably around 300,000 to 400,000 coins, which is a ton. Tradable, right? But the ones that are like whatever, like kind of in the middle, like Kyle Palmieri, for example, last year, I would say he's probably like 100 to 200,000 coins. Like I think that having coins is just more freedom. If you are so dead set on getting stuff for the fantasy event, guys, you don't want to go in with coins. You want to go in with an overall that you pick. I don't know what it is. If I had to guess, it'd be 80s. But I would pick a price point at what 80 overalls are going for and then be like, I'm going to buy anytime I see an 80 overall, I'm going to buy it for that price. If you just blanket buy 80 overalls, you might not be getting a discount of any kind. So again, I'm not a market genius. I'm trying to learn more about the market. So I'm watching it a lot more this year. And I know that I have an impact when I say things about, oh, you need to buy these rings, right? I'm just telling you guys what I'm doing. I have no insight. I don't even know if what I'm doing is technically correct because I really don't care about getting 10 different fantasy cards, right? So I'm just making it very easy on myself. 78s go into the event sets. Um, everything that's tradable sold for coins. So that is what I'm doing. Team of the week. I mentioned this the other day. Team of the week. Try and get as many team of the week cards as you can. I was able to get all 6 of them, including Slavkovsky for 50,000 coins, because he's not really sought after. He doesn't fit in any of the things, any of the line combos. But when week 2 drops and you have 6 team of the week cards already, you'll be able to bang out those objectives immediately. Now, it's obviously expensive and not everyone has coins for that, but I got 3 for free. I pulled 1, but the other 2 I made by doing objectives and moments. I showed you guys how to do that in the prior video. Just keep doing that. Stack your team of the week cards, put them in a lineup. Don't sell them, don't trade them in. Just keep as many as you can. When you get a full lineup, the best reward per time input in the game. There's an 82 overall choice pack that you got for doing all the objectives this week. An 82 overall is going for like 9,000 coins almost. And if it can take 15 minutes, that's 9,000 coins in 15 minutes. That is extremely good value, and I would recommend it. So just slowly stack your team of the week cards. Coins and selling everything, mentioned that. Again, I think it's a rule for me. It makes it very easy because I really don't understand the market all that well as I'm learning. Lastly, the salary cap. If you watched my last No Money Spent video, I pulled 2 Connor McDavids, and basically now I'm at the cap. I did not expect, if you watch my prior videos going into the game when I heard about the salary cap, I expected the salary cap wouldn't be an issue until November for no money spent players. Obviously, technically, I'm not a no money spent player because of the 2 McDavids, but I am. Sometimes you just get great pulls in a year. That's just what happens. I haven't had a good pull since NHL 21. So that being said, it is making it very difficult when it comes to the players I'm picking and choosing. I don't hate it yet. But I suspect that when more cards come out, the good ones, you can't just go and get the card you really want because it doesn't fit, and then you've got to take out a card you like to get it under the cap. Like, I think it is going to piss more people off, but you're already starting to see it a little bit. But usually it's just with the people that have put a lot of money or time into the game because they're at the cap. I think casual players are even still pretty close. So I'm curious to see how it plays out, but I'm right up against it. And if I wanted to add a player, which I could pretty much add any card I want in the game. Kind of tough. So let's get into it. The questions from last week, I went and grabbed the most liked comments. It's usually how I start. So we'll start first with Jared. He says, is it just me or are defensemen scoring on your own goal while back checking or gathering rebounds more than previous years? They gather the puck and put it into your own net before you can even switch and stop them. Maybe it's a stat thing or I just suck. I don't know. Anyways, I always watch and never comment. Keep up the grind. So what's happening when that picks up is your player will sometimes get into a puck pickup animation. There's certain animations where you really don't have any control over. It's not common, but when you're near the goaltender, it's just chaos. And I have seen it quite a bit. The thing I would recommend, what I do, is I just stop for a second. So when stuff's going on around your net, the goal is to try and get your goaltender to stop it. This year more than ever, well, actually, just like last year, to be honest with you, you need to stop play and hold on to the puck. I get the whole play the puck. It's, you want to keep playing. But when there's chaos around the net this year, there is those like, okay, your defenseman pulls it away, but if you turn around and the path is the net in the way, it can go right through your goalie and very frustrating. So what I do is when I'm in front of the net and it's a mess, I just kind of stop until I know I get the puck. And if a player's hammering away at it, sure, sometimes it'll go in, but you avoid stuff like this. It happens quite a bit. 32 likes is crazy, by the way. That means a lot of you is experiencing that. But if you back straight into your goalie, something else that needs to be, I learned this from the old gameplay designer, Ben Ross, who is no longer with NHL. Something that, I'll give you an example. When you see sticks going through shin pads or sticks going through the boards, okay? That still happens because they stopped with stick-in physics, which was a feature in NHL 22. That is just a massive mistake of getting rid of. They just needed to improve upon it. So the player is one thing. The stick is not a separate object, okay? So what happens is when there's an instance where a player's stick or body goes into another, like either the net, the post, the boards, a goalie, another player, what happens is they account for that mistake by basically taking away the player from the play for like a second or two. So what ends up happening when there's a mess in front of your net, if you back into the goalie, anytime that you see a player run their player into the goalie will be in a state where he can't move. So shoot. Like, always shoot. When you see someone back straight up into the net, always take a shot, and it will go in so much more than normal because the goalie simply won't stop it because he's in like a weird physics state. And that might not be true anymore, but it's from my experience. Anytime I've seen that where you back your defenseman all the way in and they shoot, it just always goes in. So be careful with that. And another thing, when you're backing it up, when you're backing into the net, that isn't the best way to defend. If you're going to defend a 2-on-1 in NHL 26, you want to have your stick towards the goalie. Like, you want to be coming backwards because that's the only way you'll intercept. If it's in near the feet, the pass is near the feet. If you have quick pick, things like that, it might intercept, but more often than not, that pass is going to get right through. So you want to turn around when defending a 2-on-1 and things like that. Now that you've beat the game with 2 McDavids, you should start building a Sharks team on the side that you use during Cup Chase. That's an interesting one. So I want to talk about Cup Chase as well because obviously I made a lot of noise by getting 2 Connor McDavids by playing Cup Chase. I've been very adamant that Cup Chase is the best rewards, and it's really not close. And I've been able to figure out a way to finish a Cup Chase run in about 2.5 hours. And I have a video talking about it or showing it in my No Money Spent video, my last No Money Spent video. You basically just pass the puck back and forth once you've gotten a goal. And a lot of people have been like, that's cheesing the game. I'll be honest with you. If you're doing Cup Chase and it's just for the packs, 2.5 hours is a lot of time input. So what everyone was missing everyone is assuming that that's all I did for Cup Chase. I've done like 8 Cup Chase runs, guys. The last one that I got McDavid on was when I was just speed running to see how fast I could do it. The prior 7, I was putting event items or objective cards to get objectives done in Cup Chase on Superstar, and I enjoyed it. So when there's a objective to get 30 goals, what everyone used to do is to go in rookie squad battles and just score 30 goals immediately with one player over and over and over again. Instead, what I did was I put them in a lineup and went on Superstar and in Cup Chase, and it made Cup Chase kind of difficult. And it actually made it far more enjoyable. Like, I don't know what it is. I hate offline gameplay. I hate it. I can't stand it. And for whatever reason, it's somewhat better than squad battles. Like, I find it more enjoyable and more engaging. So when you have objectives, unless you're someone like me who has had unlimited amount of time to play, there is no way you finished all the objectives. And again, you might have played a lot, and that's fine. But for the 99% of the player base, you haven't completed all your objectives. So when you're doing Cup Chase, try it on Superstar and put the cards that you were trying to work towards the objectives for in your lineup. That makes it so much better because you're not just mindlessly trying to go back and forth, right? Like, if you've done everything in the game like I have, that's where we're at now. That's why I'm speed running Cup Chase, because it's like I've got nothing else to do, like literally nothing else other than play ranked, but I'm doing that quite a bit as well. So the Sharks theme team is interesting. I might do that. But what I know I'm going to do is I'm going to, for sure, I have a objectives lineup that I've made that I use for all events to get everything done. Gotta be honest, I've had the exact opposite experience with pochecks and defending in general. I think they changed how pochecks work a bit, but people can't figure it out because they're convinced it's broken, so don't try. I take way less tripping penalties in 26 because your player makes an effort to reach around the puck carrier. You can also block passes and deflect shots by holding the button and placing your stick in the lane. I don't know what intercept button you're talking about. I might just be not understanding. Placing your stick in the lane is 100% effective. In like the last 2 years, intercepts have actually worked to an extent. Like, obviously there's times where it doesn't. But I do agree. I think my issue with I've said this before. I want to be very clear on this because I have a feeling they're going to do something to stick checks. I think they see that there is an issue with stick checks. It is not working as intended. However, you can still poke check. I don't disregard that. I have 10 to 20 examples of when a player is holding the puck away from them, protecting the puck like you see a lot in the higher divisions, and you go to poke and it skips over their stick like there's a magnet or some sort of power up that does not allows them to keep the puck. And because there's a speed nerf, which is good when you hit R1, so you can't just tap it immediately a ton and you lose speed, it allows them to just walk right by you. And I'm talking about when you're in position for a right poke, it just does not. Um, I would rather them leave it alone than fix it. And the reason why is I don't have any faith that they'll fix it and make it overpowered. And I do not want. I'd rather have what it is right now than overpowered. My issue isn't so much pochecks, it is stick lifts. Stick lifts in this game or in 25 were such a useful defensive mechanic, and they have completely removed stick checks. You can say what you want, a pocheck can still work. I would say, it's maybe 25% of as effective as it was last year. That's fine. You've got to be in perfect defensive positioning. I'll give you that. Stick checks, what's happening is when you stick lift and you get inside body position, you stick lift and you hit their stick, they're able to get their stick back down before you are. So what happens is, a play that I used to do all the time is I would defend the middle of the ice, defending the rush, and I would force a player to the outside. And then I would guide my player in, right? Not back skating, skating with them. And they would go to the boards. They would have nowhere else to go. I would get inside, stick lift, and then they would continue skating, and I would be able to get the puck. It was almost always an odd man rush. It was a very effective way to do it. And in this year, if you do that, what happens is you stick lift, they put their stick back down first, they get the puck back. It is infuriating. It is completely useless. And that sucks because the stick lift used to either A, be an automatic penalty or completely useless like it is right now. And I hate when they completely remove an ability to play defense. Like, I don't know why or what's happening, but the stick lift is in a way worse position than poke checking. Because there are times I think that people think that they should poke check and it works, that really it shouldn't. And in prior games it might have. But I also have instances where it should have and it doesn't. But nonetheless, stick checking, man, that's the one I wish they didn't mess with it. I don't know what's changed, but if you watch my gameplay last year, it was so effective. And what it's led to now at the high divisions, guys, is it is just simply sitting in front of the net, waiting for your opponent to run into you, shoot and get a rebound and you pick it up, or your goalie stops it, or a block. And defensively, it's my least favorite gameplay. Offensively, it might be one of my favorites. You can snipe, you can use backhands, you can use one-timers. Like, there is every offensive tool that we used to have. You can deke, you can toe drag and fire it in. Like, it is awesome offensively. The problem is that defensively, it is the most mindless way of playing defense. It's literally just sit in the middle, wait. And even if you're not sitting in the middle and you're manually defending, it's manually defending the perimeter. And you're just going around following your opponent. So, just something to keep in mind there. Sam says, as someone who's been playing since the beginning of time, I have to say this is the most fun I've had building a team. So many different options in deciding, do I want AP, salary cap, or overall? Using cards I wouldn't usually use to make lineups and trying out different combos. Online is too difficult at the moment, as currently stuck in Silver 3. That's still the hardest. That's still the hard lock. They do need more chemistry lines and maybe a small increase in salary for offline play. Rewards need to be a little bit better, as rank doesn't give you rewards, and you should be getting. Definite change in the right direction, but they need to fix the ranked, as in Silver 3. I feel like I'm playing guys way above my pay grade. It should start to even out. Again, as we get further into the season, the better players will move on. And Gold 3 will feel like Silver 3 by the end of it, is my guess. But right now, getting into Gold is like Division 2. And that might not sound a lot for the hardcore players. 95% of the player base can't get into Division 2. So if you get into Gold 1, that's about 1,800 last year in terms of skill rating. I agree with you with the chemistries and the salary cap. I'm enjoying it. Like I said, I just don't know how long I'm going to enjoy it. I didn't expect to pull 2 McDavid, so I had to have the options of playing with any cards I want, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch for sure. Been saying since day one, we're all going to have the same team and the same line combos. I mean, this was pretty obvious to see. But, however, if the more line combos they release, the season hasn't even started yet, guys. They need to release line combos on Monday and Thursday every week. Give us at least one, but maybe 2 each day. And if they do that, it's going to free up so many cards to use, right? Like, if a Montreal Canadian +2 overall drops, that Slavkovsky is going to shoot through the roof, and anyone that got him is going to be heavily rewarded, right? Like, that's an example. Because cards go from being useless to extremely important when line combos come out. And if they just had 50 different line combos, we wouldn't have the same team. But what's happened is there's so few +2 overalls. I'll be honest with you, like, now when Sakic's icon came out in Pasternak, there's multiple ways to hit that Czechia Avalanche Sweden combo now. Like there's still the Pavanka one, right? There's using McKinnon, for example. You're seeing more variations of it, but I think that this won't be an issue in like a month. And there's always going to be the best meta lines. That's just gaming in general. But, we'll wait and see. I do like it right now, but we'll see if in a month I still have the same sentiment. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Chel. I will see you guys tomorrow as we march forward to another week of event releases. Have a good one, guys.